champion, welcome, Danny Batten.
Hey guys, I'm Si and welcome to Ace Podcast Nation, the home of the Danny Batten Show. This is episode number 42 and we have a lot to talk about after 3 Cage Warriors events in a row and then a massive UFC 253 event. So with no further ado, joining me to talk all this is former Cage Warriors world champion and UK MMA legend, Mr. Danny Batten. How goes it, mate?
Yeah, really good. My goodness, it's been MMA overload, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, there's been loads of good fights and stuff.
Yeah.
Like we'll go through the UFC cards fight by fight, but we'll talk Cage Warriors first, and we'll kind of just like skim over it really. Pick out some of the standout performances. So you had Cage Warriors 114 Thursday night, which was kicked off by Oban Elliott versus Mikhail Figlak. Oban Elliott was highly touted by everyone. Everyone thought he was going to come in and continue his hot streak, me included. I couldn't see him losing, but Figlak was exceptionally impressive in every way. Oban started okay, first round or so, he was not too bad, but he faded and he didn't have the same power and pop. He has since said on Facebook that he gave all the credit to his opponent, but he said that the weight cut had given him a few issues, and basically I think he didn't feel like he had the same power and pace that he would normally get. And with the team that he's got around him and the people he trains with, I fully expect him to be back and learn from it. And as we've discussed, Dan, before, sometimes those undefeated streaks can be more of a hindrance than a positive. I think someone like Jack Shaw, who is quite quiet and just doesn't really do a great deal of talking outside of the cage, I think it's alright for that. But I think when you are like Oban, who's quite vocal, quite promotes himself a lot, rightly so, I think it adds pressure, doesn't it?
It can do, yeah. I mean, it really depends on your personality type. I think you can either tell how it affects someone by how they're performing. Once that record starts to bloat and it's still unbeaten, you can start seeing the pressure creep in that way. But yeah, or they come out and say it. But yeah, who knows? With the performance that we saw there from Oban, yeah, definitely something lacking. He's still doing technically the right things. He just looked like in every exchange his opponent just had a little bit more about him. Just looks stronger, a little bit more lively in every exchange, and it wore down on Oban. It was sad to see, but Oban is such early stages of his career, and like you say, he's under amazing tuition, amazing camp. He will be back from it. Yeah,
I'd be, he'll come back, and I wouldn't want to be the person who fights him next. I've got to be honest, because he'd have so much to prove.
Yeah, absolutely.
But credit to Figlak, I thought he was, from what I said to you just now, the fights with the little I had seen of him previously, I was not that impressed, and that's why I was very confident that I thought Oban was going to win. I know a bit more about Oban, I know him as well. I was very confident that he was going to bring it home. I was surprised, but weight cut can do funny things to the body, as we know, and at the end of the day, it's the fight game. And anyone can win, anyone can lose at the drop of a hat. And full credit to Mikhail Figlak, and his brother later on won as well. The other, later on that evening, then in the Cage Warriors 114, we had Adam Armasinger versus Conor Hignett, which Armasinger won via unanimous decision. I was really impressed with Armasinger again. His footwork, his boxing. His striking, I thought he was really good, but I also thought his grappling was pretty good too.
Yeah, one thing he's doing very, very well is each of those elements that he does well in are blended so well together. They're quite seamless. He'll strike and then shoot to blind the entry. on the ground. He transitions really smoothly to these half positions where he can get ground and pound off. He's not mincing around too much with submission attempts. He's getting straight back on that work train in those positions, you know. He impressed me quite a lot in the last few fights that I've seen him do. Clearly making improvements each time in the gym and consolidating them each time he performs.
Yeah, and I think I wouldn't be too surprised to see him move towards that flyweight title. Now, flyweight, is he?
I think he is, yeah, same as Luke, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's maybe not the next fight for him, but maybe a fight after that being for Luke.
He's within 2 fights, absolutely, I agree with that. I wouldn't be surprised if he got a shot at it now.
No,
and
he's been that impressive, hasn't he?
Yeah, and it wouldn't be out of place for him to. But I can't think of the other name off the top of my head that Luke's probably going to face, and he's a bit of a monster. He's going to certainly test Luke in every way, but so will Amazinger.
Yes.
They faced each other before. Okay, you know, not to make any excuses for Luke, but the last time they fought, Luke was pretty damn ill. Should never have stepped in there. But he did. He made a good account of himself initially, but Amazinger come out victorious in that one. But yeah, I'd like to see them two get it on again.
And next up, we had Aaron Khalid versus Mick Stanton. I know you haven't seen this one, all 28 seconds of it. It just began. Stanton came out swinging wildly at Khalid, and I thought, I'm not sure about that for a strategy straight away. Khalid hit him with a head kick, which Stanton did block, but I think it did hurt because he straight away went to take Khalid down, and Khalid basically put him out with a Bravo choke.
Right.
And it was, it was very, very quick, very impressive. Like, Aaron Khalid just looked like a monster. I got to be honest. From the kick to the choke,
he's a scary dude.
Yeah,
he's a scary dude. He goes in there with presence. He really does.
It was very impressive, and he was, I know he was trying to get a title fight for the Saturday because the welterweight title had been, the challenger had had to pull out. Unfortunately, they couldn't get it done, which would have been, I really feel like he would have had a good shot at that. So would have been an interesting one.
Yeah,
but I'm very sure he'll be in that title picture soon enough.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll have to watch it straight after. The thing is, I was trying to catch up on so much MMA. I thought, right, that one's a short fight. I'll watch that one, towards the latter part of the night. But we was getting later and later getting on, so I missed out on it in the end. But I will catch up on it.
Then next up we had the other Figlak brother, Mateus Figlak, fought Flaminos. Again, didn't last too long, minute 50. This Figlak brother I thought was equally impressive, if not more impressive than his brother. Just backed up Figlas with Filimas with a wild striking exchange, attacked him with some leg kicks, took him down, choked him out. That was it. Right. Good night. Very impressive. And a good night for the Figlak brothers. Jake Hadley versus Shaj Superman Hack, with Hadley picking up the win. 3 minutes 43 of the round one. Jake Hadley is something special, I gotta say.
Yes.
We said last week in our predictions that he was highly rated, and oh boy, I was impressed. Yeah, he's good. Knocked him out cold with a finish. Knocked him out cold with a a high kick, and then he followed it up with a combination. But oh boy. And then the main event for that night was Luke Shanks, your former student, obviously been on the channel before. We all tipped him to beat Samir Fadin. He won via unanimous decision, but this fight going to decision, I think, is deceptive. So the stat is, it is the most one-sided title fight in MMA, or most, not even title fight, most one-sided main event since Franklin versus Lucio from UFC 58, which tells you it was a 22-point difference. The final score was 51-41, 51-42, 50-45, and I have to say that third score, 50-45, I think is very generous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very, very generous. But Luke Shanks was exceptional. Tell me about it, mate.
Yeah, I think I don't know what his game plan was, because I know their gym, although they're well rounded, they showcase their striking very well. And whenever we've had Luke Shanks come back to train with ours, when he visits back to his local area of Northampton. We always see that his striking's getting crisper. He's keeping his feet underneath his shots a little bit better. So I thought he was going to showcase his striking more. But the guy he was up against looked quite a sizable dude. And I just think once Luke latched up to him and got success with the takedown and felt the groundwork, I think he just felt the recipe for success and just kept going to a go-to. So maybe he adapted on the job from the original plan, because he was getting hacked at the leg a little bit, Luke. Luke's got a southpaw stance and he just lunge with his shots a little bit, so his base can be a little bit wide. So he did leave his lead leg out there, and it was targeted by his opponent somewhat. So whether that was a choice to adapt for the takedowns, I don't know. But if it was the case, it was a good choice, because it certainly led to a win, and a really dominant one at that.
Yeah, I think maybe people who don't watch a great deal of MMA, they see the size difference, because Luke is quite small, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not much. He's not muscular in any way. He's not bulging with muscles or a six-pack or anything.
And you look at that and you think, oh, God, Luke is going to win that from the strikes. And if that guy gets hold of him, it could be trouble. But actually, it was Luke who just kept getting hold of him, taking him down and just pummeling him. And it was so impressive. And I think I was surprised, because there was actually a more impressive performance, in my opinion, on the main event of the Saturday. But actually, this without fear, I've never seen a fight be so one-sided, a fighter be so dominant, and it's go to a decision. He did everything but stop him. So massive congratulations to Luke, because it was huge, huge for him. And he when I interviewed him, or when I had him on the show, he spoke of he was so disappointed when the fight was initially called off, because he felt like that was his time, that was his I'm coming to get my title. And I think he felt that even more on Thursday. It was almost like in his head he had already won it, but not from an arrogant point of view, but from a determination and a focus. There was something you could see. There was a certain level of focus in him that you only see in top level fighters, mate, at the end of the day.
Well, I don't know Luke's tight personal details, but I know something that did come out was the fact that he was living at the gym. Incredible. And whether that's for pure dedication purposes, but I think part of it was the fact that his financial situation is not the best. I'm not saying a debt or anything like that, but what I mean is, with the COVID and stuff, it become quite hard being up in Scotland job wise. But it just goes to show he's willing to do what it takes, no matter how hard. Having this difficulty with the COVID scenario just never stopped him finding a way to show more commitment, and it showed through in the performance. He was so fit, and that's the thing with Luke. Sometimes his technique can be a little bit scraggly, but he comes with such tenacity and such conditioning, and he's got one hell of a strong mind. I mean, this kid is as tough as they come. There's only a few people you'll come across where they come across with this mentality it's almost godlike. Tom Wellens is one of them as well. These people just can't seem to be hurt and show it. They just got so much heart. They can be exhausted, they'll still push forward. They can be hurt and they'll still be pushed forward. So I knew it was going to be in for a treat, and a treat we were showing.
I was shouting at my TV.
Oh, me too.
So then Friday was the night of knockouts. Started off with Irishman Ian Gary, who I'm hoping to get on the show soon. Ian, if you're listening, because I know you follow the channel, hit me up. I want to get you on. Massively impressive performance by him. He won in this 3 minutes 17 of the second round via TKO strikes. It finished with Gary nailing McManus with a head kick, followed by some body shots. The body shots were brutal. And then Gary levelled him with a second head kick, and the referee was having none of it. The head kick was weird. Going by my memory, I believe he didn't go down. He kind of stumbled, but he was out on his feet, if I'm remembering correctly. I'm going off the top of my head, but yeah, very impressive. Have you seen that one?
No, I didn't see that one.
But that's one I'd recommend seeing, because Ian Gary is the future of Irish MMA. most definitely. We had Wesley Meyer versus Adam Wilson, which Wesley Meyer won by a TKO stoppage right at the end of round 1. Or actually, it was in between rounds. The referee determined that Wilson couldn't continue, and he waved off the fight as the first round finished. Basically, it was a weird one because Meyer backed Wilson up, landing a kick to the midsection, and then he attacked Wilson with like some combinations, throwing some leg kicks. It wasn't looking too like it was good offense, but it didn't look like he was going to finish him at that point. And then he dropped him like multiple times with leg kicks, and he accidentally kicked the head of Wilson whilst he was down, and the fight was halted. And then the fight resumed. They kind of got into a striking exchange, and Meyer dropped like a swing. Wilson was swinging, and he dropped him with like a counter punch. I think it was a left, and then he pounced on him with some more strikes, and then the round finished. It was a definite 10-8 round.
Right.
My only question with it is, did the head kick have any impact on how Wilson, because straight after the head kick, when the fight resumed, Wilson came out swinging,
Right.
and that kind of played into his opponent's hands. But
Right.
Ian Gary, very impressive, real dominant performance.
Right.
Could have been a 10-7 round if you ask me, man. It was real good. But I like the look of him. I enjoy watching Ian Gary a lot. Jack Grant versus Belhaj, Yassine Belhaj, with Jack Grant picking up the win with a beautiful guillotine choke in 2 minutes 16 of the first round. Again,
I watched that one.
Some of these fighters did so impressive.
Yeah, he was on him like a rash. It just looked like two different classes there.
Well, how good was his grappling though, Dan? Like,
yeah, exactly. It's just sharp.
How quickly he had it on, and he was like locked, and there was no getting out of it. It was really, I can say it again, impressive. But I got to say, a big shout out, by the way, to Graham Boylan. He paid all the fighters whose fights were called off because of COVID related reasons. Right. So it wasn't like they pulled out or they didn't make weight. All the fights were called off. Everybody made weight. Every single fighter for every single fight of the 3 days made weight. But they had a few pull out because of COVID reasons. Graham Boylan paid them all. I thought all 3 shows were fantastic. I thought the production and the camera shots of everything was superb, right up there with the UFC and the best sporting events you'll see anywhere. So a real big shout out to the Cage Warriors, because I thought this was massively impressive and enjoyable show, which looked the part as well, looked like a world-class event. And I have to say, I thought the vast majority of these fighters looked like they came with something to prove and like they wanted to make a name for themselves, and I really believe a lot of them made a statement. Jack Grant was another one of them. Superb finish with the guillotine choke. Then we saw Craig White, what turned out to be his retirement match. He lost via arm triangle choke to James Webb. This is becoming James Webb's, it's almost like in wrestling, like a finisher. It's like the move he uses every time, but it's his go-to move. It works for him. Triangle choke to finish it. Look good. Craig White been a fantastic servant for Cage Warriors over the years. And wish him well for his retirement. Another one I'd love to get on the show to talk about his incredible career for Cage Warriors and European MMA. Wish him well for the future. Yeah. Did you see that one, Dan?
No.
Yeah, you did.
No,
you did, because I know that was the other one. Sorry.
I saw the other one previous.
And then the main event for Friday was Jack Cartwright versus Gerardo Fani. This
I watched that
was one-sided.
Yeah.
What did you make of Jack Cartwright's performance?
Cartwright is just such an animal. Such an animal, yeah. He doesn't look like he's that strong, but he shrugs everything off that comes at him, and then when he's putting it on someone, it's like they're physically helpless against everything that he does. So strong.
Sorry to interrupt you, mate. He reminds me in his style, he's like Khabib, but he hasn't got the body size and body.
No, he don't look
shape
much
of
to look
Khabib.
at. But
Like, even when he does that pose where he tenses up everything and puts his shoulders forward, he still looks really small. And I'm not disrespecting him in any way. Like, rip my arm, rip me to pieces. But like, I just mean he doesn't look like much. But you put him in that cage, Gerardo Fanny is like no mug. He comes from that French gym where Ngannou trains. They've got like a conveyor belt of top European talent. Scattered all around Bellator, UFC. It's a really good gym, and one of the best gyms in Europe. And Jack Cartwright just decimated like he was nothing. And he's another one, mind. I can't see him being in Cage Warriors for too much longer. I got to be honest, because I think he's the sort of guy who Dana White likes as well, isn't he? Like, he's got a personality.
Absolutely, yeah. I think I would like to see that very much soon. Just get him in UFC. There's a few of them who it's about time that they moved on up.
Yeah, Jack Cartwright versus one of those Welsh boys in the UFC in the bantamweight division.
Yeah, that'd be good.
That interests me.
Yeah.
Or even Jack Cartwright versus Nathaniel Wood.
Yeah, that would be a good one. Absolutely.
When that UFC London card eventually happens. And then we had the Saturday Cage Warriors 116. And, we've had Mason Jones on a couple of times. He's been on the show. And, he speaks so well. He's very confident in his ability. And boy, oh boy, did he turn up. But we'll discuss that in just a second. Because before that, we've got one of your highly rated students. I know you rate him exceptionally highly for someone who's so inexperienced and so young. And I've spoken to him a few times. He's been on this show. He's been on some of the other shows. I had an exclusive interview with him last week. Georgian Vucinic beat the very experienced and capable Steve Amiable via a split decision.
Right.
Gotta be honest, I was a bit confused by the split decision. I thought Jordan did win it quite comfortably. Not comfortably, but I thought he was a clear winner, shall we say.
Yeah. He was doing the right strategies. It was close on the feet. Anibal was closing down on Jordan, making Jordan have to fight a little bit going backwards. But Jordan, he's got a tactical mind, a strategical mind, and he knew that, hey, this is close on the feet. I'm going to engage and take some advantage up against the fence or with the takedown. And he did that in 2 of the rounds. So, I was a little bit surprised that he went to a split. But come on, we just know that you can't leave things to the judges ultimately, because you just don't know which way it's going to go. But it did go in his favour, and rightly so. We just got to move on from that now. But what a win, because Steve's such an experienced opponent for Jordan to face, and Jordan is gaining experience on the job. Jordan performing in the gym is performing world-class level. There were a couple of mistakes that he knows he made, because I spoke to him, quite quickly after his match. He knows what kind of mistakes he made, which he doesn't make these mistakes when he's sparring and competing in the gym. So that just goes to show me, it's a little bit of just being
anxiety,
youthful and young.
Nerves, young.
I don't know whether it's that. Yeah, he's just trying to get his pressure performance up. I mean, it was not a bad performance. It was a great performance. It really, really was. I'm very, very picky. I will pick out the mistakes.
But you've got to, haven't you, as a coach?
Yeah, absolutely. But there was so much that went well. These few wrong things. It weren't wrong enough to have the decision to go against him. No. We got the result. We got to move onwards from that. And I just promise you that each time you see Jordan, you're going to see a better Jordan each time. Promise you that, because this guy just grafts. He grafts. He travels all over to get sparring in. He travels all over to get extra technical knowledge in. He's well grounded at BST also. Very, very, very close relationship with all the coaches at BST. Very, very popular lad. He's going to go far.
Well, even just like I had him on the Unscripted Uncensored show, then he came on our show, then I did those exclusive interview with him ahead of Cage Warriors. And like I speak to him fairly regularly on text, and that we get on really well. But like, he's a very likable guy, but you can tell like he reminds me a lot of like when I've spoken to Ben Ellis, when I've spoken to Jack Shaw. They're so focused, like they just want knowledge. They want to watch people train. They want to watch people fight. They want to listen to coaches, experienced fighters, other fighters, and they want to learn. They want to pick parts of every fighter, make it their own and take it on to just make themselves better. And like I was watching his fight and I thought, yeah, he's won this. But I was nervous then because you just never know with judges. And then afterwards I was thinking, I wonder if I think I was thinking, oh, he might be disappointed because he had said to me that he wanted to finish him and make a statement. But I was thinking afterwards, I was thinking, look, like you can't just walk through some of these experienced guys. Like they've been around the block. They can take a punch. They can take a kick. They know what they're doing, and in many ways, beating someone like Steve Amiable over 3 rounds, not comfortably, but clearly, I think is just as impressive as beating someone in 30 seconds, and you don't really get to see how good they are.
Yeah.
Because you don't learn anything if Jordan knocks him out with like a spinning back elbow or something in 30 seconds. You don't learn anything about Jordan there. He doesn't learn anything. Like you just said, he's learning on the job. If he wins in 30 seconds, he doesn't learn anything other than the feeling of the big fight feel. Do you know what I mean? Whereas three rounds against an experienced quality guy like Steve Amiable, I think he'll have learned a lot about himself, and there's plenty for you guys to work with. And he's training with guys like Modestus, who's in the UFC, and Tom Mearns and Richard Mearns and all these other guys who are very good MMA guys, very good in all aspects of MMA, but also they're experienced guys for him to learn from on a daily basis. And like you say, he goes around different places as well.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see his next fight, and I think he said he wants to fight on the November card as well.
He's just keen. Yeah, he's very keen.
What it was like to be young and hungry, Danny.
Yeah,
I'm still hungry. I'm just not young.
I'm hungry just from grub. I just want to eat all the time.
Oh yeah. And then next up we had Sam Creasy, another one who will be on the show soon. I spoke to him last week. I was hoping to get an exclusive with him Friday, ready for Saturdays, but unfortunately he was cutting weight and he didn't feel up to it, which is fine. I knew that these guys are that when you're going through a weight cut, it's very difficult to just you don't want to be talking to me. I get that. But he defeated Nicholas LeBlond, who's another one who's he's no mug. I thought Sam Creasy was very, very impressive. He won 29-28, 29-28, 29-28, unanimous decision. What did you make of Sam Creasy's performance, mate?
Yeah, good. Yeah, the only criticism I've ever had of Sam is that he's got really nice, sharp striking. He's got his wrestling together quite well. He knows his grappling really well also. It's just his defensive form. It's just his reference point on the feet. His hands are extremely low. And he would have been world champion by now in Cage Warriors had he not had his hands low. I think it was actually Luke Shank's opponent, wasn't it? That knocked him out the last time. Yeah, and he was winning it. And he had his hands low. And if he could just tighten up his form a little bit, this guy's still relevant to tout to be the top in that division. But
I think he mentioned that actually in his profile. I think, I might be wrong. I might be confusing. I've watched so much MMA, could confuse him with someone else. But I'm sure he said afterwards that in that third round, he felt like he was confident. He was winning the fight and stuff, but he felt that he needed to really focus and get his hands up and stuff to make sure he didn't get caught in that last round. I might be confusing him with someone else.
Right.
Then next up we had another one of your fighters who sadly he lost. Tom Mearns lost by unanimous decision to Kieran Lister. However, there was no shame in this, and I on my card I had Tom winning. So it is what it is. But what a fight! It was fantastic fight to watch.
Tom did not disappoint. The only disappointing thing, the fact the result didn't go his way. But sometimes I get the feeling that when a fighter's unbeaten, sometimes the judges if it's really close. But Tom had the guy backpedaling all 3 rounds, and the only time that anyone got hurt was when Tom caught him with the overhand on 2 occasions. Tom was being really diverse, so whenever his opponent was throwing up that head kick, as soon as he done that head kick and placed his leg down, Tom would counter leg kick him and come back of his own. I just felt like Tom did enough and was controlling the cage enough to get the nod myself, but maybe I'm being biased. I'm looking through biased eyes.
I thought that as well. I got to be honest, and I saw a few people saying the same thing. on social media and stuff. So I do think that maybe that was the
case.
Yeah,
I was not disappointed. I think Tom's really showcased the fact that he's not just a grappler, because in his early career, I think he was a bit of a sort of like grinder on the feet. He would get you up against a fence, grind you to the mat, submit you and ground and pound you. But he's showing that he could strike with the best of them and giving away natural size. I mean, this isn't Tom's natural weight. I think we was discussing this, wasn't we, just before we come on air?
Yeah.
But, Tom's having to fight lightweight because his work life is just so over. It's a struggle for these youngsters. I think people don't appreciate, what these fighters go through.
They all just working full-time jobs.
They just think that all these guys are just training full-time. It's not the case for many, many of them. And Tom's unfortunately one of those ones that, he's working at one job one week, another job another week, and they're always high intensive labour jobs and weird hours as well that he's done. And
for sure,
not been easy for him in camp. But you know what? He showed a lot of commitment in turning up. He got himself in amazing shape. You saw that with the way he pressed forward for 3 rounds against a much larger opponent. Once things settle down in Tom's life, I'd like to see him go back down to featherweight at some point. He knows that's my intentions for him, and I think he'd be hard pushed to be beat of anyone, any level in that weight division. When you think he's performing as good as he did against someone as experienced and as good as Lister and as big as Lister is. I think Lister's fought up at welterweight as well, hasn't he?
Yes, he has,
Yeah. So just give that some reflection on that performance as well. So we are going to see more of Tom. He's just had a real hard time in his personal life, really hard time with his work. And with his training.
He came back from a horrific injury in Bellator. Then he had to pull out of a Bellator fight. Then he took that Cage Warriors fight on pretty short notice, and it wasn't the real Tom Mearns who turned up that day.
Yeah.
And I think that this was the real Tom Mearns. This was what why when we first talked, I asked you, who's in your gym, who should I look out for, and you said Tom Mearns straight away. And I was a bit familiar with him from Bellator anyway, but we talked about him at length, off air, on air, and I felt like this on Saturday was the real Tom Mearns. This was what we've been waiting for maybe the last year or so, 18 months. And I think when I spoke to Tom last week for that interview, and even when he was on the show last week, he just seemed different to when I first spoke to him, about a year ago. He seemed focused. He seemed, not that he didn't before, he just seemed more focused. He seemed relaxed, but in the right way, not like relaxed, not taking it seriously, just like relaxed. I'm comfortable with what I'm doing. I'm comfortable with my weight. I'm comfortable with my training, and this is what I want to do, and I'm gonna go and do it. And I was impressed by his performance, mate. I really was. I felt like after the disappointment of his last couple of fights, to go in against someone like Lister and perform, and let's be honest, probably win the fight, and someone who's fought a weight above as well, like a weight above really for Tom, isn't it? Because Tom is, like you say, really a featherweight, and this guy had fought a weight above again in welterweight. So I thought it was a tremendous performance by Tom. Then we had the co-main event, which was Paul Hughes, the Irishman, versus Aidan Stephen, the Scotsman. This was a very enjoyable fight, mate. Back and forth. Did you see this one?
I started to watch that. Then we had to come on air.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to fit that in. But the Irish lad come out really hyped up. He looked like he was
young.
going
Didn't he look young?
Yeah, very much so. But
really young.
He looked like he was chuffing at the bit to get in there.
He was looking for that rear naked choke early, like all the way through, wasn't he?
Right.
He in the first round he was looking for his back all the time, so it was clearly it's clearly something which he's what's the word? Like he's clearly looking for that. It's obviously a strength of his. But I thought it was a very enjoyable fight, sort of a bit of back and forth.
Right.
You've seen the early parts of this.
Yeah.
What did you make of it?
Well, it looked like they both had good games. They were well matched in terms of like creating a good viewing for the spectators. Yeah, we're going to see more from both of these guys, I'm sure.
Yeah, both highly rated.
Yeah.
This finished with what was it? A rear naked choke via Paul Hughes won in the 4 minutes 21 at the third round. So right. 30 seconds left of the fight, and he got that rear naked choke finally, which he had been looking for.
From what I was seeing, I can imagine he eventually ground the guy down. I take it.
Yeah,
was it the case?
He's kind of looking for it, and where he's a bit smaller than the other guy, he was able to kind of slip around his back while he was stood up, and he actually put the rear naked choke on while the guy was stood up. And like a rear naked choke is often with both guys. Like the guy applying it is on the underneath almost, isn't he?
Yeah.
With the other guy on top of him, he was actually leaning forward with the choke on.
The
guy had nowhere to go. But I saw enough from Aiden Stevens that I really, I think both of them will do well. But very impressive from Paul Hughes, him and Ian Gary, two Irish guys. I thought did some real good stuff on Saturday and Friday. And then we had the main event, and I didn't think anyone was going to outdo Luke Shanks in terms of performance. But Mason the Dragon Jones was going up. He's already the lightweight champion to fight for the vacant welterweight champion versus a very experienced and large Adam Proctor. I saw a few experts, shall we say, from the MMA media saying that Adam Proctor would be too much for him. He'd be too big, he'd be too strong. Mason Jones, he shouldn't take the fight because it's going to damage his reputation, etc., etc. Number one, if Mason Jones had lost, I don't think it would have damaged his reputation.
No.
Because he's fighting a way up, and you've always kind of got that to fall back on, haven't you? And he's been so dominant in his own weight class. However, Mason Jones destroyed him.
Yeah,
in no uncertain terms.
Proctor did look massive in comparison.
He did look big.
He had height, he had build, he had just general length advantage. But Mason Jones' boxing was so down the pipe and so tight, so tight. And Proctor's defense was actually really, really good. I mean, he won't give him much of a gap, but Mason Jones found it, and he found it on one occasion in the round, which obviously led to the win. Really good stoppage as well, because it was the second time Proctor had got knocked down, and he was receiving a lot of hits, although partially defending them and trying to transition. I think for the fact that it was the second knockdown and accumulating more damage, I think that was actually a really good stoppage. I'm so pleased for Mason Jones. He absolutely deserves to go down as one of the legends of Cage Warriors now, being so dominant in his weight class and then stepping up against a huge guy, and then showing that he had more power than that guy. Utterly impressive. Get this guy in UFC.
Yeah, it was the power, wasn't it, that I think would have surprised people who weren't aware of
Great
it
technique.
previously.
Great technique.
But yeah, I was just overall, I just thought, wow, like everything which I thought he was going to do, and we thought and we discussed, happened, didn't it? He just poured it on him. He was too much for him. He absolutely bloodied his face up. He was just the elbows, the punches, just everything. And even when he at the end there, when he's got Proctor's on the floor and Proctor's trying to hold him off with his legs, he just throws his legs aside and just nails him with these punches. And then he holds him against the cage, hitting him with these elbows, just bloodying him up. The ref gives him Mark Goddard, I thought, did a tremendous job.
He's one of the best.
All 3 days. He took a lot of criticism a couple of years ago for some of the stuff he was kind of getting involved in or doing. He was having a bit of a back and forth with Conor McGregor. But ever since then, and I think that's when I became more aware of him, and ever since then, I think he's done a tremendous job. He really was impressive for all 3 days. Just giving enough to the fighters, but still protecting their safety. Superb.
Yeah, Mark Goddard, a lot of people don't realise what he does behind the scene, but he really pushes and advocates for this safe MMA. which a lot of people have a gripe with because you've got to pay for it. But he tries to push hey, look, this is here to keep the fighters safe. At the end of the day, we have to keep it safe, because if you get anything untoward happen, that could be the end of MMA in the UK. And
absolutely.
as we know, France has only just recently, I think it was in December, allow MMA to be to be held in France. Can you imagine us going through that, which could happen? We don't have a proper governing body, but he works behind the scenes a lot to try and create a governing body that could protect our sport and keep everyone safe in the MMA community. And obviously that's what the main job of a referee is. They try to keep the flow of the bout going, but more importantly, the safety of the fighters. And I think he's one of the best referees out there.
Spot on, mate. And I couldn't have put it better. And also, you mentioned a minute ago that who was it? I forget which fighter it was, but you called him an animal because of just his brutality and how good he is. And I'd put Mason in that category. But what I would also say is his call up or his call out on the microphone after the fight was as good as any promotional mic work you'll see from an MMA fighter anywhere in the world. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have not.
So he basically said, Dana White, find me your biggest, your baddest lightweight, and I will destroy him. Doesn't matter who it is. Doesn't matter if it's your champion. Doesn't matter if it's your number one contender. You find me your biggest, baddest monster, and I will take him down. And I was like, wow. What more can you do? And I know that Mason Jones is going into camp on Monday, so there we go.
Yeah, he's walking the talk.
Of that, we'll see. But can you imagine they just put him in with Khabib for the title straight away? Said like, have 3 titles if you can, and then he becomes the one. But no, I'm only playing, obviously. But look, I said to you in jest a couple of months ago that the Welsh were coming to take over the UFC. They're making an impact like the Irish did. Once you had Conor McGregor, you had a few other top Irish people coming through. It looks like the Welsh are the new nation to hit UFC hard. Yeah, and when you look at some of these guys, I got to say though, the guys coming out of the UK scene generally, they just look like it's really promising for the UK. You've got like guys like Modestus, you've got Jordan, you've got all the Welsh guys, you've got Nathaniel Woods already in there. Then you've got guys. What's his name? I can't remember the guy we were just talking about. The animal, as it were, on Cage Warriors.
Cartwright.
Jack Cartwright. Yeah. You've got Ian Gary. You've got so much talent coming through. And when these guys, if they keep progressing the way they are at such an incredible rate, when these guys hit the UFC, I do believe you will, and you probably will, end up with multiple British, Irish UFC champions, because I believe that they're that good.
I mean, what one guy that could make it as a champion is that Leon Edwards. He's really making an impact.
Got to get him fighting first, mate.
Yeah,
very enjoyable 3 days, mate. So let's move on to UFC 253. There was a lot of hype around this show. Obviously, Paulo Costa and Israel Adesanya defeating Paulo Costa by TKO strikes to retain the title. It's really a very interesting show, this one. There was a lot of good fights. One thing I want to touch on before we get to the main show, which we're going to focus on, was a couple of the fights on the prelims.
Right.
So this week there was a bit of a hubbub as Conor McGregor released some DMs or like photographs of DMs between him and some private messages between him and Dana White, where basically Conor McGregor said after his fight against Cowboy, I want to fight. And Dana White said, who? And he said, who is there? And one of the names which Conor said was Diego Sanchez. And I was like, Diego Sanchez? Really? Like, I just thought Conor McGregor would destroy him. But, like, I know Diego Sanchez has had some amazing fights over the years, and he's very experienced, and he probably deserves that, like, that one big fight, that big payday. But Diego Sanchez the one thing he didn't want from this fight was to lose convincingly. After all that talk of Conor McGregor maybe having a fight with him, and then he lost convincingly, in my opinion.
Yeah, it doesn't interest me to see that fight. Conor McGregor and many other fighters would be a much more favourable pick for attention. But Diego Sanchez is past his prime. He's been in many wars. I do respect the fact that he can still motivate himself to get in shape, to get in there. But even his body's starting to look soft. He's looking a little bit soft around the edges in this bout. Still has his tenacity. To me, he's always looked uncouth on the feet. He's not had very good footwork ever in his career. He's really not good coming forward. And this is why he gets caught in wars, because the only way he can get in on someone is to take some flack and stand and trade in the pocket. But this guy knew better of it and was playing counter and cutting angles on Diego. And really, they looked like two different classes. Diego still got the cardio there. Like I say, he must train really, really hard. I don't doubt that. I don't doubt the passion for the sport. But I just think skill-wise, along with the fact that he is getting older now, I just think he's coming ever increasingly more irrelevant with regard to ever staying in that top 15 or getting in that top 15. I just think if he chooses to stay in it longer, he's just going to be a gatekeeper at best. But I would like to see Diego Sanchez really hang those gloves up. Jake Matthews, mate, I thought was impressive though, and he looks like I liked in his post-fight interview. He said, "Give me more legends. I'm going to become the legend killer." And I'd like to see him. I think that's a good route for him, because I don't necessarily think he's ready for like your top level younger guys just yet. Right. Yeah.
Like your top 10 guys who are like at their peak. Not that he would embarrass himself or anything like that by any means. I just think he's not quite there yet. But I think fighting guys who've had great careers and got a bit of a name, I think that could be the good way for him to build his experience. And
what weight was that at? Because Diego's been floating around with his weights. What weight did they fight at in the end? Was that a welterweight fight or a lightweight? Because
I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to
just thinking, lightweight or welterweight, I would like to see him fight. What's his name? Jimmy.
Manuel.
No. Oh my God! You know, he's another sort of aging guy. If he wants to fight people who are being classed as legends. Oh my goodness, I'm so bad with names.
You are terrible with names. I can't think of any fighters. Jimmy.
Hang on, wait. I'm just going to look through here.
Yeah, as though it was welterweight.
Was it welterweight? But he's fought up at welterweight before. So, what is his name? I'm so bad. It's honestly, it's awful. I just can't bring up names of
Jimmy?
things. Yeah, Jimmy.
And what weight does he fight at?
He fights at lightweight. I think he's been around the weights. I think he may have even done featherweight. Yeah, Miller. That's the one.
Yeah, that could be a good fight.
Yeah. I watched him and Cowboy. Cowboy won eventually, but Jim Miller, giving away a hell of a lot of height and size, natural size, but he gives a good account of himself. That's a possibility there. If he wants to take out legends, I mean, to me, I've been a massive fan of Jim Miller. I think he's done fantastic, and he's still pretty relevant. I think more so relevant than someone like Diego Sanchez. So maybe that could be something that could be put up and put on.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, and then just quickly, I wanted to mention the kind of main event of the prelims, I guess, which was Brad Riddell versus Alex De Silva. Alex De Silva is like, they've been hyping him up quite big, Brazilian lad. I thought Brad Riddell was really, really, really impressive in this fight. He won by unanimous decision, but I just thought he gave De Silva a bit of a lesson, maybe.
De Silva was looking
young.
It was still a close fight. I mean, Alex De Silva looked really dominant in that first round. I gave him that first round, but Brad Riddell he just pushed down on the grind button, didn't he? and he just squeezed in on Alex da Silva, sort of like all round. His work ethic was incredible. And then you had that little incident where it was thought that it was an eye poke, but it wasn't. It was
that annoyed me. That did.
Yeah,
that really annoyed me.
Again, even Rydell didn't sort of question it. He was unsure of what happened. And I think for Alex da Silva, I think he didn't know whether it was a finger or not.
Probably felt like an eye poke, do you think?
Yeah, because the thing is, if you've only got certain sizes of these gloves, and sometimes with the hand wraps, the gloves are obviously a little bit bigger than your natural hand. And when you're clenching your fist, if I can get my hand in there, your glove can protrude away a little bit. So I'm trying to get in focus here, though. The glove can protrude away, and whether as he punched, the glove poked him a little bit in the eye.
He just seemed to catch him with his knuckle, didn't he, or something?
Yeah. And for the refs, it depends whether they're on the correct side and whether they're able to see.
I didn't think the referee was supposed to go with, because he seemed to go with like what the fighter was saying. It was an eye poke rather than him seeing it as an eye poke, and I didn't think they were supposed to do that. So
yeah, I think it was because I think because Alex da Silva sort of went holding his eye, and Rydell was sort of, he didn't argue it, did he?
No, he didn't know.
Yeah, and I think that's why the ref thought, okay, there's an understanding. There was an eye poke there. Let's just give him his potential 5 minutes. But it seemed to just spur Rydell on, and he was even more dominant, wasn't he? After that, he just really put it on Alex da Silva. Both of them were very impressive. To be honest, I'd be really excited to see Alex da Silva fight again, and super excited to see Rydell fight. Rydell's got almost like that Chandler style about him. Yeah. Kind of looks like him a bit as well. But
you just love Chandler. You see him everywhere.
Chandler's good. Yeah, he's a good guy. I think he's brought a lot to the sport. I think it's a shame that Chandler's just not been in the UFC sooner than he is now. But he is there now, and
could be
that's
UFC
all we can.
champ in a few weeks, mate.
You never know. You absolutely never know. Yeah,
stranger things have happened.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, we're already 51 minutes into the show, so let's get on to the first fight of the main card. Was Hakeem Dawodu versus Zabaya Cherkov.
Yeah.
Goff.
His name's a bit.
Zabaya, we'll say. He won via split decision.
Yeah. This is one of the ones that I went for, just to say I do get some.
Right. Well done.
Yeah. Hakim, he's rangy, and I like his striking. I've got quite high hopes for this kid to start making a breakthrough into the higher ranks, and I think he looked pretty impressive.
He did.
Zabira, we're going to call him, was that Zabira?
Zabaya. Yeah.
Zabaya just looked just a little bit slow. Just a little bit slow. Yeah, I think it's just his style. I think he got success, didn't he, at the end of the first round with a takedown, and kept trying to go there. But Dawodu showed amazing balance because he got entered in on with some takedowns and was hopping on one leg all the way around the cage, nearly 360 degrees, but still stood up. And I think he was getting a little bit frustrated with Zabira's backpedaling in that third round. He was shouting at him, wasn't he? Putting his arms down, saying, "Come on, fight." He's getting a little bit frustrated because I think he had loads of energy to burn and want to trade off on Zabira, but Zabira kept backpedaling away.
Zabira was. I noticed the way he fights. He's very much like of that Dagestani kind of type of wrestler where he's wants to get it to the ground if possible and very grappling orientated. And if that's not there, they will kind of stand off until they can shoot in to get that offense. But I don't know whether Zabira thought he was winning, but to me, I just couldn't understand, like in that third round, Zabira standing off as much as he did.
His leg was bothering him. He'd received a few leg kicks. His footwork was going a little bit astray.
But still, if you want to win the fight, you got to.
Yeah, well, he was trying to.
Get in there.
He was trying really hard for those takedowns, and like I say, Hakeem showed some amazing capabilities with his takedown. Yeah, I know he did get taken down a couple of times, but
you could hear Khabib shouting at him to get in and go for the takedowns.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I'm becoming a fan of Hakeem. I am kind of excited.
Very impressive.
Yeah, this guy's got some tenacity about him. He was patient with his strikes, but fairly precise. I do think that he felt that he's got more cardio than he got to express in there. But like I say, I think his opponent was just backpedaling. It was frustrating him a little bit. I kind of wish he didn't resort to swearing and putting his hands down, doing what he did, because you've got to be careful doing that in the UFC. They don't normally take to that too nice, but it just shows his passion for wanting to trade off and let's see who's best, stop running away, you know. So yeah, I'm a bit of a fan of Hakeem. I'm going to be looking out for this kid.
Yeah, he was a very good, very dominant,
intelligent fighter.
Performance. Yeah, he got the personality as well to gain the kind of the mainstream attention as well. If he can put together the win streak. Then we had Caitlin Vieira versus Sajira Banks, which was an interesting matchup with Vieira ranked 7. Eubanks ranked 13. This one went to decision as well, with Vieira picking up the victory via unanimous decision, 29-28 times 3. What did you make of this one, mate?
It wasn't the most enthralling of the female bouts that we've seen. I think it's just like depending on styles, and I think their styles just kind of didn't blend well for an eye-catching. But I just think it's for the fact that we've actually been so spoilt with some of the female bouts.
Yes, we have.
We've seen some incredible ones. So really, if we really step back, it was a good fight between them both.
Coming up next week as well.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, but I just felt like they both actually performed pretty well. But for Eubanks, she was just falling foul to the takedown, even though there weren't amazing amounts coming from the top position of Vera. It was enough to keep snipping away at those rounds, and she kept dropping those rounds. But Vera's striking wasn't as crisp and wasn't as technically as good as Eubanks. Eubanks definitely had better looking technical strikes, but overall with the completion of the MMA styles, she was just lacking somewhat. And Vieira's just kept on, like I say, pinching those rounds, kept kind of keeping it close with the strike, and she looked bigger of the two as well. And I felt like some of those takedowns were perhaps a little bit of a size issue between them. But well done, Vieira. She's going to be moving up. Yeah, it is. And she looks like she can certainly push some of the higher ranked girls, and she's still in development as well. We can see that she was making some errors, and she's technically not so crisp just right now. But those kind of things are going to be closed in, and they're going to start getting sorted out as she gains experience.
Well, yeah, she'll probably move up to like 6th or 5th in the rankings. Just above her, you've got Irene Adlana, Raquel Pennington, Juliana Penna, Aspen Ladd, Holly Holm, who's fighting next week, Jeraine Durandamir, and then obviously Nunes is your champion. I'd quite like to see her go against like a Raquel Pennington.
That would be good.
A good little tussle, and then if she beats Pennington, she's got to be right up there for either a shot at the title or maybe the gatekeeper in Durandamir. So it's be interesting to watch how she progresses. She's definitely adding into the mix of things, and it's needed in the women's divisions. They're a little bit lacking, as you mentioned. And she's a new one that's coming up in the mix. Like I say, right now at this level, perhaps not ready to break through into that top 5, but I think with another couple of fights under her belt, I think she could definitely be there. 100%. Next up, we had Kai Kara France versus Brandon Royval, with Kara France ranked 7 and Brandon Royval ranked number 9. This was a really exciting round. It only lasted 48 seconds into the second round. Jesus. This had fight of the night as well. When you think how short it was, it's impressive.
I mean, I've seen that Kara France fight before. Really explosive striker. But Brandon Royval was really impressive. Really, really sharp in everything that he did, and had cardio. I know it didn't go on long to truly see the cardio, in the
longevity. Amount of work and speed that you look at, isn't it?
Oh my goodness, yeah. He looked really, really good. Looked a little unpredictable as well. I imagine he's kind of a nightmare opponent. Really, it's hard to strategize for. You kind of have to slow him down, but. Yeah, Kara France had no answers for him, to be honest. He did rock him at one point, didn't he? Momentarily.
Yes, he did.
But then soon he got rocked, and then Brandon come up with that that switching elbow. I don't know what you call it. He dropped down to one knee and threw that
Spinning
elbow,
spinning back elbow,
spinning back elbow. I mean, what creativity! What creativity! And
to
that's
do it off balance as well.
Yeah, I mean,
makes it even more impressive, doesn't it?
He got rocked and then comes back with something really flamboyant and successful with it, and counter-rocked Cara France. But Cara France, he's still up there, still good in my mind. I just think that Brandon Royval, he's a new kid on the block.
Yeah, I was looking at the flyweight rankings. Brandon Royval was number 9 and Cara France is 7 before this fight. I'd imagine they'll probably swap in the rankings.
Pretty much, I agree. Yeah.
I really like it. Ranked number 6 is Jussier Formiga. I would really quite like to see him face Brandon Royval. Or ranked 4th and 5th, you've got Perez or Pantoja. I'd like any of those 3 versus Royval.
You know that they're going to be fireworks. Any one of those matchups will be fireworks for that stylistic fighter.
And even Cara France versus one of those as well, I'd be quite interested in. But also, like, do you remember when Mighty Mouse was flyweight champion and he was dominating the division? The flyweight division just seemed dead, and that's why I think one of the reasons they ended up letting him go. But I look at that top 10 now. You've got the champion is Figueiredo, then you've got Joseph Benavidez, Moreno, Askarov, Perez, Pantoja, Formiga, Cara France, Bontorin, Royval, and Schnell is your top 10. That's incredible.
Wow, that is thickening up nicely.
Creativity and just a bit of everything there that is suddenly very, very exciting to see. Okay, so next up we had the first title fight of the night, Jan Blachowicz versus Dominic Reyes for the vacant light heavyweight championship, which John Jones vacated. And this was pretty good to watch. I thought Dominic Reyes fell into Blachowicz's trap, and I thought Blachowicz set up the trap perfectly.
Yeah, I really. They were both striking quite well, but Jan was landing the crisper scoring shots. He was unusually scoring a lot to the body, to the lead side, which is.
But he was setting it up, though, don't you think? That's
I absolutely think you're right. I think he was trying to get him to move into the direction of his crosshanding, but boy, did he start weltering. You literally saw one of the kicks land, and there was instantly a welt on the side of his body, and that welt got deeper in colour. Must have been pretty uncomfortable to keep receiving strikes on that side. So no wonder why I started moving into his power side. But this is another one that I predicted right as I redeeming myself. I knew Jan's pretty special, and I liked it that he actually played out what seemed to be a strategy. I really hope that was the case. It was a strategy, and it didn't just fall into place by chance. If that was a strategy, his camp's on point, and him as a strategical mind being able to put it to play, he's on point too. And it did seem like he was setting Ruiz up, and it was just beautiful. Ruiz has really got to reset himself now, and try to make himself look relevant in the next match, whatever he gets. I don't know, who would he have now? It's kind of getting interesting on who'd be matched up with who, because there's a few people who are highly ranked
straight away, and John Jones said on social media, maybe I'll come back and get my title, but I don't want to see that now. I want to see John Jones move up to heavyweight or to do something different. So light heavyweight division, you've got Thiago Santos. Santos is fighting Glover Teixeira next. It's supposed to be, although it's been called off a couple of times. I would imagine the winner of that gets
Glover. Tamir will win that.
But Glover's... I think one of them, the winner of that, will get Blachowicz. However, I think a guy who really could do with the maybe title shot, or I think would be a good fight, is Rakic. I feel like that could be an interesting fight for Blachowicz.
I think out of everybody in that division right now, in that top 10, you got to say Rekic is probably the next in line to be the title holder at some point, don't you?
Because I look at it and I just think Johnny Walker's got a lot of work to do. Krylov has got a bit of work to do. Anthony Smith hasn't looked too great the last couple of fights. Ozdemir maybe. Jiri Prasaka, very up and down in his performance. Rakic, I think, has been very consistent. And then you've got Glover Teixeira versus
Glover
Thiago
impresses
Santos
me, but he's like 40 years old now, though, isn't he?
Yeah,
Glover?
I'm all about the youth, mate. Now I want to
Yeah,
see these
but in that
guys
division,
give
I
them a
think
chance.
I just think he's still relevant. He looked really dominant.
Absolutely, mate.
And I really like his forward approach with his hands. It's not like wild. Everything's quite calculated. He really presses forward in on people and grinds people down. And he's got the ground as well. I think his ground shouldn't be overlooked. He gets on top of you, he's going to be doing some damage. He's got great control from top position. So yeah, I rate that Glover. I really do. I think, he's definitely in the mix there.
What do you make of Dominic Reyes' performance? What should he do next? But also, did you see the bruise on his ribs against Blachowicz last night? I think it was a kick. It come up so...
it was instantaneous.
So quick.
That lead body.
I've never seen something come up that quick before.
Yeah, you literally see... you see a slow motion kicker. You'd already landed the kick a few times to that lead body, that lead side of the ribs. And one of them, on slow motion, you see it land, and then as his foot come away, you see it darken in colour instantaneously. I mean, ouch. That's got to hurt. That's got to hurt.
Do you think he must have a broken rib to have bruises?
I don't know whether it was like that kind of impact. I think it was because it was slapping with the lower shin and part of the foot. I think that it's literally whipping the skin.
Yeah, he broke his. So he's got a leg injury. He's broken his nose, and a significant rib injury. It says.
Right, okay, yeah, so he may well have a broken rib.
Do you think it's time for Reyes to hang it up and concentrate on his...
No, I don't think so. I think he's still a really relevant fighter.
How old is he? 36?
Yeah, that's not really...
He's not that old, he's 30. 30. So
yeah. He's someone as well that's sort of like... He's suddenly got a lot of attention because he's really performed well against Jones, and... I just think maybe he underestimated Jean a little bit here. I just knew Jean was the real deal, and this is why I went with him.
Pushing on, haven't he? Over the last year, like really, really pushing on.
Yeah. I think the way to beat Jean is you need to put pressure and constant pressure on him. Yeah, you have to get this guy. You don't want him to settle and outthink you.
Like almost break him mentally.
Just stop him thinking. I think
that left hand which finishes him, mate. Sorry.
It's horrid.
Wobbles him, and it's almost worse than being. You know when you see like a fighter knocked out. This was almost worse, where they like wobble but stay on their feet. His nose is spread across his face. Yeah, it just looks like he does not know where he is.
Yeah, but Reyes, I mean, in his corner, they should have been telling him not to backtrack. So there's two ways you can circle away from an opponent. You circle into them, where you cut angle towards them, and you sort of like you sort of like go. Oh, I'm trying to get my hands into focus here. You sort of like meet each other and then skim off like so. Yeah. Or one can come towards you and you back off and out. So you do like an outward circle. The reason why he was getting caught by that body kick was because he was going outward and circling. So Jean was coming forward with the shorter range hands, and as Reyes tried to increase the distance between them, Jean was just throwing out that body kick and catching him on the retraction. It was a really good strategy. And like I say, I really hope that it was a strategy employed by his team and him, because it goes to show you, because it goes to show you, hey, these guys are going to have a plan for every single guy they're up against. And when plans work, you win.
Because Reyes has got that dangerous right hand, haven't he? So they would have planned for the best way for Jan to be able to get off his strike. He's got that big shot, but I think it's left or his right. Forget which one. I know it was his left which took him out, but I think it's actually normally his right. But he's got that big shot with. But he was setting that up as a counter punch by trying to get Reyes to come forward, and it's similar to what Adesanya did to Costa, with the leg kicks, the body shots, and it worked because when Reyes came forward, he hit him with those big shots, and Reyes, you know, with these guys, if they hit you with the precision and the power, or the precision and the speed that they've got, you're going to go down unless you've got a chin of granite. And you know, Reyes has proven previously, not proven, but like we've seen with Reyes, that if you hit him with clean shots, he can and will go down, as you know, most people will. And it was interesting. Next up, at the main event, Israel Adesanya defending his title against Paulo Costa. They do not like each other. Everybody said Paulo Costa was going to walk him down and finish him, except me, Aaron Khalid, and Tom Mearns. We were the only people on the planet which said Israel Adesanya was going to be too good for him. We were right.
Yeah, you absolutely was. I was really disappointed in Costa. He didn't play the right type of game with their physicality differences. I think Costa was maybe thinking about the 5-round duration too much. Yes. I think Costa should have been trying to bust a nut and put pressure on his opponent, which he's never experienced before. He's never experienced pressure, so surely you want to put him under pressure. He just didn't do it. It's like he was waiting too long. It was like watching down the sight of a sniper that has a chance to, you know, get his kill, and then they walk behind a building, he misses his shot, the chance of a shot. He just didn't let go of anything, and he got picked apart. But what can you say? It was touted to be such a exciting fight and was such a flop. But let's not take anything away from Adesanya. He's looking better and better each time. It's looking like he's just created a way to win, that now other people have got to try and figure out a way to stop him winning in this fashion, because he's just looking stronger and stronger. Before he's just a kicker, but we now seeing that he's actually got really sharp hands. Man, he's just looking like there's no one to touch him in the division right now.
Yeah, the thing which impressed me about Adesanya was, like, he was ice cold. He was really precise, and he had a perfect game plan for Costa. I texted one of my friends yesterday because I reread it this morning, and said if Adesanya can get through the first 7 minutes, then I think he will just pick him apart until he finishes it, probably in the 3rd or 4th round. But Costa never came in the first 7 minutes.
He just didn't pull the trigger.
However, I do think part of that was because Adesanya's footwork was so good. He stayed out of range. He pieced up Costa's leg, and you could tell the plan was to piece up his leg, chew it up, and you know, like, I'm watching it now. 2 minutes into the first round, and Costa's leg is covered in red bruises where he's been pieced up. Like, that's 2 minutes in, and then he was hitting his leg, moving out, putting his leg, moving out, and then as soon as Costa came forward, Adesanya would move to the side and hit him with those counter shots, whether it was kicks or punches, and rightly so. Everyone talks about how good Adesanya's foot striking is, his kicking is, because he's a world class kickboxer. But his hands are so fast, so precise. He did most of his damage, or significant damage, I should say, with his hands. Like, I know those leg kicks, and things like Costa was like putting his hands behind his back. And
he was frustrated,
trying to taunt him. And yeah, you're right. I think he was annoyed that he couldn't implement his own game plan.
Sure.
And his leg was getting chewed up.
For me, Costa, if he wanted to try to shut down Adesanya, you have to learn to fight both ways, both legs forward, in part of your combination. So what I mean by that is you might start your combination with your left leg forward, and as you move forward, you literally make a step with that right side and continue to throw. And then that way you can adjust how you take that right leg forward as you switch your stance while you're throwing a combination to how they turn left or right. Because you see, Adesanya was having no part of being in the pocket with Costa, which was absolutely right, because Costa's powerful and explosive, and you don't want to be mixing in those ways. And Adesanya just was having none of it. Every time Costa did come forward, he would back away, he'd backpedal, looked almost negative at one point, really would just not engage in that close quarter fighting. He picked the range that he wanted to fight out, and well, exactly. Why should he? But like I say, Costa, if he was going to stand a chance of shutting Adesanya down in any way, he has to learn to blend forward with the other foot as he throws, to be able to try and catch up with the footwork disadvantage he clearly had with Adesanya with his left leg forward in one fixed piece position. He was just too predictable. But Adesanya, amazing, looking more and more impressive. And now you've got to look down the division and think, who's going to challenge him?
Oh yeah.
Who?
So I'll get to the challenges now, but like the second round, like Adesanya, I saw some people saying he was a bit disrespectful after the fight towards Costa. Like for me, if he had behaved like he did, just in a normal fight where there was no kind of animosity between the two of them, then I'd have probably said, there was no need for that. But Paulo Costa has been very, very disrespectful to Adesanya for probably about 6 months at least.
Yeah.
During Adesanya's last fight, Costa was at ringside and he was like screaming stuff at him and shouting during the fight.
Right.
And you saw in Adesanya's post-fight interview in his last fight, he didn't like that at all, and he was finding it very disrespectful. But Costa had left by the time he did his interview.
Right.
So I don't blame Adesanya because he proved a point. He proved he was a better fighter. He proved he did it in dominant fashion. So you can kind of understand him being a bit like, there you go, that's what you get for trying to. And a lot of people thought Costa was gonna be the guy to dethrone Adesanya. Just watching the finish again now, Adesanya is world class, and like it's a shame. I would love to have seen a peak John Jones fight Adesanya. I would love to have seen that. That would have been like an all-time great fight.
Yeah.
But sadly, I don't think we'll ever see it. Oh, then if John Jones is only interested in super fights, maybe. But then I think John Jones is more likely to fight heavyweight than he is to come down to middleweight. Do you think?
Yeah. I don't think he's
at the age he's at now, unless they offered him.
I mean, Adesanya could come up to light heavy and they could meet there. I can't see. Jones ain't going to go down to middleweight.
No, they could do it light heavyweight. And I was just watching the end there. So the end comes where Costa gets frustrated, goes for like a big body kick, and he puts a lot behind it. And you can almost see Adesanya's eyes light up because he catches the leg, hits him with a straight uppercut almost in the solar plexus, and by this time he's already cut his eye, and then it just leads to the finish.
I mean, when someone's footworking as much as they're, why go body kick? Why go body kick? It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. You when someone's footworking so much, you need to take away what's causing their mobility, which is their legs. And so you would predominantly attack the lead leg, like he was having his lead leg attacked. You attack the other person's lead leg likewise, because while you're using your lead leg to attack, it's therefore not being attacked. And he did kick with his back leg to Adesanya's lead leg a couple of times, and it was landing. It wasn't like Adesanya was blocking it or slipping away from it. He got success, but he just didn't follow up on it. He didn't keep throwing it out there. He was just settling to receive. I think he had come out of strategical mode because of frustration and was fighting with too much actual real anger, and it blinded him somewhat. He was getting frustrated.
Played into Adesanya's hands exactly.
Absolutely, he did. And Adesanya played it really cool, calculated, and employed a near perfect strategy game.
And if you watch it again, mate, watch the way when he gets that mount, Adesanya, he's so quick into the mount, and he is. It's game over. Like there's a bit of probably a little bit of animosity behind those shots because he's got him in full mount, and he knows it's over. There's a bit behind those shots.
Every single one that landed was a piece of humble pie being fed to Costa.
Yeah, but that's what it is. It's almost like you doubted me. You disrespected me. I'm the champ for the reason, and now you know.
Yeah.
Quite right. You proved a point. So, in this division, it's an interesting one because you've got Robert Whittaker's fighting Gerard Cannonier very soon. I think in a couple of weeks. But then you've also got Jack Hermanson is fighting Darren Till. Now, I don't think they'll do Whittaker versus Adesanya again just yet, because Adesanya just pieced him apart. So I don't think you could sell that fight just yet, unless Robert Whittaker does something very, very special, which he is capable of doing to Kanye. Could you give it to Kanye? Yes, I think you can. He's ranked number 3. He's on a bit of a impressive streak. So if he was to beat Whittaker in a fairly convincing way, I think you could do that. If that fight, if Whittaker wins, or if Kanye doesn't really, do something particularly impressive in the fight, I think if Jack Hermanson was to beat Darren Till, you could do Adesanya versus Hermanson. The only problem being, I don't think you can do Darren Till versus versus Adesanya. Darren Till's got to get some wins before he can think about the title picture.
I don't think there's.
Could do something.
Yeah, I just don't think anyone in that division looks like they're stylistically gonna put any pressure. No, I just can't see it. I think Adesanya should make a legacy of himself and go up a weight, or come down a weight if it's possible to do.
Shabazian maybe in a year or two, but I don't think he's anywhere near ready yet. Whereas I was just looking at the light heavyweight division, you could slot Adesanya in there with the likes of Blachowicz, Rakic, Ozdemir, Krylov, Johnny Walker, Misha Serkinov, Dominic Reyes, Thiago Sanchez.
Yeah, I mean, how about him, coming up weight and fighting Reyes as his first fight up? I think that'd be good. Reyes has got to try and re-implement himself, and Adesanya could, make an early statement by defeating someone like Reyes. I think that would be a really good match.
I got to say, they won't do it unless Johnny Walker does something, special for a few fights. I'd love to see Adesanya fight Johnny Walker just from a stylistic point of view, because they'd come up with some creative stuff. I wonder whether he'll come up to light heavyweight, fight like say a Reyes and then a Sanchez, a Santos or a Rakic, and then fight, if he wins both of them at light heavy, then fight John Jones in like a super fight.
Sure.
After he's had a couple. But it's whether John Jones has got his eyes on the heavyweight title, because if he's going to fight light heavyweight, then what was the point in vacating the title, really? May as well have kept it. But not interesting card again. Got some great women's fights next week, mate. Let me have a look. Main event and Kona main event, both female fights next week. So we've got Holly Holm versus Irene Aldana, which will be a good one.
Yeah, I don't know about Holly Holm anymore. I don't know.
Normally decent fights to watch, though.
Yeah, they're definitely decent fights. I just wonder whether she's on her way out now.
Possibly.
I wonder.
Still ranked number 2.
Big fight
for
surprised.
Aldana. If Aldana can pick up the win, that's a massive statement for her. Who have you got in that fight, mate?
That's a real hard one. I mean, on paper, for experience of caliber of opponents, Holly Holm's got it, but I don't know. To me, she's on her way up, and Holly Holm, she hasn't been impressing me. She's really been seen as a striker, but her striking's become a bit ploddy, and she clinches up a lot without the ability to do a takedown. So I just wonder whether she's got the full dexterity to beat Adelana. I'm going to go for Irene.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we have Jeraine Durandamine versus Juliana Penna.
Yeah. I'm going to go. I'm going to go Penna.
Okay, I'm going to go Aldana, and I'm going to go Durandamine. And then there was another fight which caught my eye. Where's that one gone? Kyler Phillips is fighting in the male division. He's very highly rated by some people I know, so I'll be looking out for him.
Yeah, I'd say him.
We've also got another female fight, which I think will probably be on the prelims, which is Lomo Lukbun Mi versus Jin Ye Frey. So that'll be interesting. They've got a couple of interesting fighters there. So that'll be, it'll be interesting card. Not too many big names on there, but quite often these have been the ones which have been very entertaining
Good with matchups.
recently.
Yeah. It doesn't mean there aren't going to be good matchups there.
Yeah, Jorgen De Castro's fighting, and Dequan Townsend, another one who's been, spoken of as a potential big name in the future. So they'll be interesting. And then we've got some cracking events coming up. I know. So that'll be next week, and then obviously the week after that you're not with us because you're with Modestus. What date is Modestus' fight? Is that the Saturday the 10th?
That's is it? Hang on. I can't look because it's on my phone.
I think it's the 10th. I got a feeling.
Yeah.
Is it the Sandhagen card he's on?
No, isn't it 17th?
Oh, so it's the week after then.
Yeah, but I have to go out quite a bit earlier
before.
because of the testing. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the Saturday the 17th.
Yeah.
Brian Ortega. He's on the Brian Ortega versus Korean Zombie card.
I know. Who's your money on for that? That's going to be a hell of a fight. That is.
It's going to be a brawl. I'll go with Korean Zombie, I think, for that.
Yeah.
Time. So that night you've got Ortega, Korean Zombie. You've got Modestus versus Jimmy Crute. John Phillips versus Hugh Young Park. So that's going to be a sensational card. So that means you're going to be away for 2 Sundays then, does it?
That might be the case. Yes, it will be. Be 2 for 2 weeks. I might possibly be able to do it while I'm out there, to be honest.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'll sort out a replacement with a fighter or a journalist. And then if you can join us as well, we'll do a 3-man one. If not, I'll just do it with...
Yeah, I'm pretty certain it should be all right to do, to be honest. Or at least one of them.
So we got the Hollyholm bout next week. Then the week after is Marlon Moraes versus Corey Sandhagen, and Ben Rothwell's also fighting. Then the week after we got the Ortega Korean Zombie with Modestus, and then the week after that is the card, UFC 254, Khabib Gaethje, Islam Makhachev versus Rafael dos Anjos, Magmed Ankalaev versus Kutlaba, Stefan Struve versus Tai Tuivasa.
Quite surprised he's still in it, Stefan Struve. He's had a lot of losses, hasn't he?
Yeah, the guy he's fighting though is they like him, Tai Tuivasa, and you've also got Khabib's brother fighting on that card on the prelims, and I believe that what's his name? What's the big guy now? The one that they love at the moment, Chimaev, is it? Chimaev.
Oh right, is he back on?
Kazmat Chimaev, he'll be on soon enough. I don't know. I'd be very surprised if he's not on Fight Island because he wants a fight. But I think he's having trouble finding a fight. He actually today has called out Israel Adesanya. I've just seen.
Oh right, really? I mean, he's got definitely. It appears that he's got the power and the striking to demand respect from Adesanya. And would he be able to? Because we haven't really. Has Adesanya ever been taken down? I don't think he has he?
No, not for like an extended thing. So look, they're looking at setting up a showdown for Stephen Thompson to fight Chimaev, but nothing. They were trying to get that done for UFC 253 last night, but they weren't able to sort it. Adesanya is looking to fight Gerard Cannonier after his fight with Whittaker, if he can beat Whittaker. But there's a lot of ifs and buts in that.
There is, yeah.
Oh, I tell you what, I would love to see both those fights I've just read about. Chimaev versus Stephen Thompson and Chimaev versus Adesanya. I'm down for both of those.
Yeah.
I think they'd be both incredible stuff there.
Yeah.
He's an exciting fighter, Chimaev is.
Yeah.
Dana White's very confused by Paulo Costa's performance.
Yeah, disappointing.
But I think don't want to take too much credit away from Adesanya, because I really
No,
thought
he was
was outstanding.
he was perfect with his strategy. You know, what can you say?
Indeed. And fine, McGregor and Dana White are just going back and forth, which is normally means there's a fight around the corner for Conor McGregor.
McGregor needs some kind of attention every now and then. He just needs to
Yes.
pop up and see his
Well, he's
name
been
up in
quite
lights.
vocal for the last 3 weeks. We've had to talk about something about him. So I wonder whether Nate Diaz has popped up again as well on social media. So I wonder whether we may see them face off in their trilogy fight.
Sometimes I wonder whether the way Dana White mentioned about, well, he never mentioned when he was being asked questions and put questions, and Conor McGregor's name was mentioned. He goes, "Well, what can I say? He's retired. He ain't fighting this year." He was writing, like, forget about him. And I don't think Conor likes it. I think he knew how to play Conor back in without having to say, "Hey, come back for this amount of millions."
Back. Yeah.
No, he's just like, okay, we move on from you then.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And we've also got some interesting stuff next week. Lewis Long's fighting on the Bellator card on 1st of October. I think
Come on, Lewis Long.
First is Thursday, I think.
Yeah.
So we'll cover that in the show. And there's another, I think there's another Welsh guy on that card. I'll have a quick look now, because we'll do predictions for those fights as well. Let's have a look. Bellator 1st of October. But yeah, Lewis Long's on that card. I think there's another Welsh fighter and there's another English fighter as well. And it's the first ever event in Paris. Not Paris. This one's in Milan, and then they're also doing one in Paris about a week later as well.
I think that's the one that Linton's on.
What's that? The Paris one?
I think so.
Amazing. So Bellator 247 full card has been announced, which is Thursday 1st of October in Milan. The main event is Paul Daly of England versus America's Derek Anderson. Co-main event Norbert Novini versus Lade Zerhouni. I'm not familiar with either of them. Then you've also got main card action with the English flyweight title challenger Kate Jackson takes on Dutch Bellator kickboxing champion Denise Kyle Hortz. What else we got? So we got Bobby Pallett, I think is the one I was thinking of. He's a British fighter, I believe. I think he might be Welsh actually. Lewis Long is fighting Giovanni Melillo, and Bobby Pallett is fighting Justin Burlingson.
Right.
Kaiwan Gracie is fighting Constantine, someone I can't pronounce. So there's some interesting fights on that Bellator card. So we'll have a copy of that. And it's obviously it's on a Thursday, so that means we'll have a bit of time to work out the fights and watch some of them and stuff. Just want to very quickly before we finish off. Do you think Lewis Long will take that fight, mate?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, me too.
I think he's got it.
He's very. I've spoken to him a bit recently, and he's very, very focused. Because he obviously he's got access to a gym all the way through lockdown. He's been training very hard. Yeah, Bobby Pallett is a Welsh undefeated fighter. I thought he was. He's 5-0 as a pro. He's called the Body Snatcher. Fights. I don't know what weight he fights because welterweight. But I'm gonna keep an eye on him because I've heard he's pretty good. So yes, lots to do. Right, lots to talk about next week, mate. Lots of great stuff coming up. But I enjoyed that, mate. Thank you very much for your time.
No, cheers, Si, and everyone who's listening.
Yeah, and cheers to everyone who's watched, downloaded, subscribed to youtube.com/AcePodcastNation for all the latest shows. We've got individual social media pages for the Danny Batten Show, which is Danny at Danny Batten FS, and also the hub of all the podcasts at AceCast_Nation. Give us a follow, get involved in the conversation, and you can of course send questions for us, for Danny and for the guests. We'll probably have some guests over the next few weeks as well. I've got a few lined up, different fighters. to talk about their recent experiences, or maybe their upcoming experiences. You never know. But until then, we shall see you next Wednesday. I also check out all my exclusive Cage Warriors interviews, which I did in the run-up to Cage Warriors, the trilogy. I think about 7 or 8 in the end of different fighters. So check out them. They're all in a playlist nicely set up on the YouTube channel. Cheers, guys.